Hey, what's up guys, and welcome in this new video where I'm gonna show you the ultimate guide to process tech house drums. So before starting with this tutorial, I would like to remind you that all of the samples used are from our new pack Isolate Volume 4, which is a minimal tech house collection inspired by the sound of artists like Michael Bibi, Posa, Dennis Cruz and many more. You can check it out from the link in the description below. So let's start with this tutorial. As you can see, we already have 4 different groups here and they correspond to 4 different frequency range. So the best way to explain this is to use an ozone imager. So as for the drums, we really covered the whole spectrum in terms of frequency. So we have the lows, the mid lows, the mid tops and the tops. In the lows we usually find the kicks or some lower percussion. In the mid lows we might have some toms or some other percussion. Then in the mid tops we have mainly the claps and the snares, in the top the hi-hats and the rides. So we have already divided the drums in this project according to this method, but we're going to use the ozone imager here just to have a listen to the 4 bands. So we have the lows, then the mid lows, the mid tops, and the tops. Okay, perfect. So these are all of the drums that we have. The first thing when using this method is to pick the right balance between all of the elements inside of the group and between the 4 different bands. So we're gonna start with the lows and we're gonna do a quick gain staging between the kick drum and this low percussion. This sounds quite similar to bassline. As you can see, we have an LFO tool just for a bit of sidechain. We have the mid lows, which is just this element, so we're gonna take a look at it later on. Then the mid tops. So we have this first clap, we're gonna add an EQ here. And then we have the snare, so we might have the snare a bit more focused around the 800 Hz. And then we have this percussion loop. Okay, final thing are the tops. So we have this open hi-hat. Then we have this closed hi-hat. And this hat loop at the end. Okay, so now that we have mixed all of the elements inside of the groups, we're gonna try to balance the 4 different bands. You can also take a look at the span to see how the frequencies are distributed. Yeah, we can reduce a bit of the lows so that the tops and the lows are more or less on the same level. Yeah, as you can see here, we are more or less around the same level here, and we have like the classic smiley face frequency distribution, which is typical to this kind of tech house and house tracks. So now that we have done the gain staging, the second part is the stereo imaging. So the important thing to remember here is that when you go up the frequency spectrum, you also want to go wider. So you want to start mono in the lows and then gradually spread up the frequencies and then go really wide on the tops. To do that, we are going to use the iZotope imager. We're going to use the Ozone Imager 2 on the individual channels. So we're going to start with the lows. Here it's already pretty much mono, as you can see. Then we are copying this one and pasting it on the mid lows. Gonna reset the value. Here we can maybe add a tiny bit of stereo image. Spreading it a little bit. Then moving on into the mid tops. Here usually I tend to like the claps in mono, so we're gonna do a quick example here with this clap. So this is quite wide, but let's have a listen of it in mono. As you can see, when it gets wider it loses a bit of the punch, but we have the snare drum in this section which can compensate. So let's add the imager here as well. And as you can see, the snare is completely mono. So what we can do here is spread the clap a little bit to add a bit more information on the sides, and keeping the snare mono to add the punch and the attack. Okay, perfect like this. And then we have the percussion. Here, since it's a loop, we have some percussions that are in mono and some that are a bit more wide, so we're just gonna do a gentle boost of the width. And now on the top we can go really wide. So here also we have these closed hi-hats, which may be an exception, so we want to keep them a bit more mono, but let's start with the first open hi-hat. As you can see, this open hi-hat is completely mono, so we're gonna add quite a bit of width here. Okay, and then we go into the closed hi-hat, which, as you can see, it's already very stereo. Let's have a try with the closed hi-hat in mono. So we might want to reduce the stereo image a bit here, so that the closed hi-hat is a bit more punchy and cuts better through the mix, but you can also have it wider like the open hi-hat. It really depends on the case and on the type of track, but like the main principle to remember is that when things are mono, they are more concentrated, the power only goes one way, while when they are stereo you have a bit of dispersion of the power, so you might lose some energy, but you gain a wider sound. And the final thing is this hi-hat loop, which is already very wide. So let's put it on the entire group as well. Okay, just a tiny boost here. So now that we have done the gain staging and the stereo imaging, the final part is gonna be the body, so adding a bit more saturation, adding a bit more power to the drums. And there are a few ways that we can do that. So I personally like to use a bit of clipping, especially on the tops where you have some very loud peaks. So you can use Pro C2 just to visualize some of the peaks, so you're not actually gonna compress anything here. So this is what we have in terms of peaks, and what I like to do to boost a bit of the transient is to do some clipping. This plugin is the one I like to use the most because you have an easy visual reference of what is going on. So we're gonna turn off the oversampling, and we're basically just gonna increase the input and decrease the output by the same amount. Okay, so these peaks that you see in red are the peaks that we are clipping. Now you want to reduce this by roughly the same amount, so around 9 dB. So if we go extreme here, you can see on the Pro C2 that it's like having a wall which is cutting the peaks. Obviously you don't want to go that aggressive, you can go back around 9.8 as we were doing before. Okay, perfect, and we're just getting rid of those clips, so let's have a listen. So now since we are compensating the gain in the input and in the output, we are basically having the same output gain at the end of the standard clip, but you can increase a bit the output gain. You'll get a much fatter sound here. And then you can eventually do the gain staging with the gain of the group. But in this case you will preserve the fatness that is being created by the standard clip. So this is one method that you can use. Another one that is also really common is to do some saturation and some compression together. So we're going to use the standard Ableton saturator. Together with the standard Ableton compressor. So here the settings of the compressor really depends on how you like the track to sound, but there are mainly two different options. So you can go for a slower attack and a faster release. In this way you are letting the transients go through because of the slow attack, so you'll have kind of a more present sound, especially on the transients. Or you can go with a faster attack and a slower release. In this way the compressor will catch the louder peaks and the loop will sound a bit more compact, and you will have the quietest part a bit louder. As you can see, it has much less dynamics and it sounds a bit more squashed. So yeah, basically these are the main techniques to process tech house drums. This is more of an advanced guide if you are into mixing your tracks a bit more professionally. So be sure to check out Isolate Volume 4 from the link in the description below. Let us know what tutorials would you like to see next, and I'll see you soon. Bye!